Recording in progress. So Natalie, you are going to take this away. You are my lovely moderator. And not only is she the moderator, she's also been our partner in putting together this event, specifically the employee resource section. Before I let her take the floor, the proverbial Zoom floor, I do want to say that this is the last session that we will be recording, because afterwards it's breakouts. And so once we're through with this panel, we're going to have 5 women who are leaders and within their company's ERG. And in those breakouts, they're going to specifically talk to you about what they've done, and hopefully in a group share, be able to figure out how we can support one another and do things, not just emotional support, but could our companies combine when it comes to hosting initiatives and events? So Natalie, take it away.
Mute. There we go. Hey, well, what an amazing afternoon. So kudos to you, Claire. Thank you for having me here today. I know we've been talking a long time about this. So much work on your behalf went into creating this today. And wow, you have created panels and amazing speakers. And I have to tell you, this last one resonated with me because I pivoted late in my career and I didn't think of myself as older until I heard the panel last time. And I was like, oh, I guess I fall into that. And I would have had to retire a long time ago. So and I'm in tech. So anyway, it's great to be here today. I'm excited to have our panel today. I know that we are going to have some great conversations. I'm not seeing Veronica, so hopefully, Claire, if you see her and you can put her up here. But for all the people that are here today, my name is Natalie Benamou. I am the founder of HerCsuite. I'm so excited to moderate today because it's the perfect segue about ERGs and supporting you at work. And we have a panel of amazing women that are here today with us. And I'm going to let them each introduce themselves. And then I'm going to ask them some questions that I think are really going to help you be able to think about whether you are in an ERG, whether you want to create one, or whether you need some help and guidance on how to improve your experience. So we are going to work on all of the above. So I am going to turn it over and ask the panel to introduce themselves. And first, I'm going to turn it over to Melanie because she's the first one that I'm seeing on my screen. So Melanie Neal, take it away and introduce yourself.
Great. Thanks, Claire, and thanks, Natalie. Hello, everyone. I'm Melanie Neal, the Vice President of Global Commercial Excellence at Terumo Blood and Cell Technologies. I've spent most of my career working in the med tech industry and have personally benefited from being involved in ERGs or employee resource groups really throughout my career. And that's why I'm excited to be here today in support of Women's Equality Day and to be able to share some of my experiences that may be helpful if others are thinking about how to create or how to sustain a successful and meaningful ERG.
Thank you so much. All right, I'm going to turn it over to Nicolette Sherman, who is also on with us today.
Hi, everyone. My name is Nicolette Sherman. I'm the Chief Human Resource Officer at Certara. Certara is probably best known as a biosimulation, kind of tech-enabled drug development company that works to accelerate medicines and bring them to patients everywhere by working across with our pharmaceutical and biotech partners. So I'm thrilled to be here today. I'm very new in my role here, so as I kind of stumbled my way through my introduction, but I'm thrilled to be here. And similar to what Melanie said, while I'm in HR, certainly I have an HR lens to the value and the role of employee resource groups or business resource groups, as we sometimes call them, in organizations. I also have benefited greatly from being part of ERGs and playing roles as executive sponsor and also helping to form some. And so I'm really looking forward to the panel discussion as well.
Wonderful. Cathy Skala.
Hi, everybody. I'm Cathy Skala. I am the CEO and founder of CureX, which is a consulting firm. And I have spent several years in the healthcare industry, like everyone else that's introduced themselves today. I actually led a BRG, a business resource group at Baxter Healthcare with another co-leader of mine, and we won a couple of awards, which I'm very proud of. So I'm very excited on this panel today to get it started.
Wonderful. Well, we are waiting on another colleague, but while we are waiting for her to join us, I'm going to get started with some questions because I know that a lot of our listeners here today are wanting to know how to not only get started, but also what do you do? And so, Cathy, starting with you, I know you and I have talked a lot, and I know that there's a lot that goes into not just starting a BRG, but there's also getting buy-in from people within the organization. So I know that, one of the challenges is appealing to people within your organization at all the levels. Can you talk a little bit about how you did that? Because I think people might have challenges in terms of getting people to be engaged.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely, Natalie. So one of the things that I would say is that when the BRG, I came in probably a year after it was founded. And one of the things that I would say about a BRG is you really have to not only kind of take a top-down approach where you get Nicolette, as she mentioned, somebody from HR involved. If you have IND or DEI or whatever the acronym is, group in your organization, make sure they're involved. And then not only from the top down and have an executive sponsor, but really get people excited from a grassroots position. So I kind of look at it as kind of staying from the top down as well as the bottom up to really get individual contributors, managers, and directors at all levels who are excited about not only contributing to the BRG, but learning skills for leadership that they can then take into their current roles and demonstrate things that they may not have been able to demonstrate in their role, but the BRG gives them that opportunity to do so.
Thank you so much. That is a great perspective. I am going to go over to Veronica, who is with us. Yay! Hi, Veronica.
Hi there.
So I want to give you the chance to introduce yourself as well. So thank you for being with us today.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be invited. And thank you, Natalie. And also to all the women that are just listening right now and those who are allies. And I'm Veronica Appleton. I serve as Vice President for Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion for a Omnicom group agency. And I also teach for DePaul University and Northwestern University.
Well, we're so glad to have you here. I'm going to ask you a question, and then I'm going to go over to some of our other panelists. But I know when we talked, you shared with me that you have kind of transitioned into a few roles. You've helped start an ERG, and now you're overseeing one. Can you talk a little bit about what that was like and where you are right now with that experience?
Yeah, I think one of the more beautiful things about the workplace is that BRGs, ERGs, business resource groups, and employee resource groups, they are communities where employees feel and believe and act on the voices that they have. And I think one of the more beautiful things is that they get to execute that work. So whether it's helping on new business, it's developing new programs for internal projects, it's developing recruiting programs, getting more folks into the workplace that either identify who they are, or also identify with some of the key priorities within the organization. And ERG, BRG is able to do that. And you see a lot of these like really good and rich examples with like BMO Harris Bank, with Chase, JP Morgan Chase Bank, with Target and Walmart, and so many other brands that have kind of executed on these things. And then specifically within kind of how I've transitioned earlier in my diversity management career, I was able to kind of help start some BRGs within the advertising agencies that I was working for. So it's a great opportunity to kind of stretch yourself and to say, hey, I want to stand up for giving myself an opportunity to do more. And I think all of that is included in kind of creating equality within yourself. Of course, there are external forces that can create more equality, but when you have internal quality, I think that it creates an opportunity for voices to be heard, for you to work seamlessly with advocates and with allies, and then to also give folks a chance to say, you know what, I'm involved. I want to talk to executives. I got this. We need to create some internal change, and we need to see it externally too.
Oh, well, thank you so much for sharing that. I'm going to shift over to Nicolette to ask a question. Nicolette, I know that you are a CHRO and you have been in HR in talent management. What is the relationship for people that what do they need to know to partner with HR when you're doing an ERG? What are some best practices and things that people need to know about?
Thanks, Natalie. So yeah, so there are plenty of things, right? So I think HR plays multiple roles. I mean, one of the things that comes to mind immediately for me is just really helping to get support in initiating an ERG, right? So, I know in past companies I've worked with, we've kind of had some guidelines around, if you can get, depending on the size of your workforce, 15 or 20 people that are like-minded and want to come together to really promote impact to the business and the communities that they operate in for a particular area of focus, then that's a great way of kind of supporting. I think, a great example of that was when I was at Sanofi and we were creating a millennial work group, and they called themselves MIL. And, I think helping them, I was the executive sponsor there as well. So HR can also play a role in identifying executive sponsorship. In this case, it was it was something that I kind of gravitated to very much as well. So, I think then really kind of figuring out what the path is and setting some very clear objectives. So in this particular instance with the millennial group as an example, they felt really passionate about being able to have a really key role on campus, right, with recruitment and helping to attract candidates. So it was one very easy path to kind of go down. Another one was around helping to bridge understanding. There was a lot of discussion around generations in the workplace. And Natalie, I had to laugh at your comment earlier because I think, that wisdom group, I think many of us would love to kind of think that we have all that wisdom that would be involved in part of that. But, kind of thinking across generations. And so they decided to start a reverse mentoring program. And we were able to kind of secure advocacy and championship all the way at the top of the house with the CEO also having a reverse mentor. And then finally, we also tried to link in the community aspect as well. And this was a group that was very, very active in the community. And so I think, thinking about the bridge and where they could they could best have an impact, but like thinking about real tangible places that were areas of interest, but also areas of kind of business contribution as well was real important. Finally, I guess from an HR, like from a role perspective, I'd say, HR can definitely play a role in coaching and development. So certainly encouraging people to step up and step into leadership roles, as some of my panel colleagues have already said, taking a risk, promoting cross-functional collaboration and networks. So depending on the organization, some are smaller, some are bigger, but sometimes, if you're sitting in HR, you might not know the person that's sitting in procurement or sitting somewhere across the organization. So that's important. And then I think, two other things I'll point to is sometimes training's an element that ERGs will focus on. So helping with content development. And finally, and really importantly, I say finally, but it's probably one of the first things that come to mind, is really working to support formal goal alignment, right? Because what you're doing with an employee resource group, hopefully, you're getting the kind of commitment and advocacy from the top so that it becomes part of a goal, not just something that you do when you have, spare time. A lot of times it starts out that way. You do it when you have spare time. But I think being able to point to it as something that's really adding value to the organization and is recognized as a portion of your actual work is really important as well.
Thanks so much. I'm going to shift over to Melanie, who has so many things that she's done in around this. But one of the things that I think people struggle with is content. You were talking about it, Nicolette. But Melanie, how do you find, or what was your experience, and what has been your experience in creating programs that people want to attend, engage, and thrive together?
Thanks, Natalie. There are really two simple pieces of advice that come to my mind around this. And one is really just start somewhere and work with what you've got. I think this is particularly important in our current environment where everyone is very busy. Our work in a lot of ways has taken on a different form or different meaning over the last couple of years. And we're not, all sitting in the same office environment anymore. We're working in a lot of different places. Some may still be in an office environment. Some may be working virtually, but at the end of the day, we're all still striving to make those connections. And I think programming through an employee resource group is a good way to do that. Starting with something as simple as hosting lunch and learns, which that format works great for those that may be in a variety of different locations, and leveraging some of the internal resources that are available to you at most companies, regardless of what size you might be. Hosting a lunch and learn around some of the topics that we've even discussed in some of the different sessions today, helping women to be better negotiators, helping women in the workforce to understand whether it be personal finances or the finance structure in the professional environment. These are all skill sets that are very suitable to different women at different points in their career. And I think that's an important point. When you think about programming, think about what's important to the women and the men that might be in your employee resource group, what point in their career they might be at, some of the external environments that could be affecting them in the workplace. And that's the type of programming that's going to be meaningful to them. And they're going to feel like they're positively impacted and adding value. I think from a business perspective, I have conversations all the time with colleagues around how we create a better bench when it comes to talent, or how we help individual contributors transition successfully into a management position, and then mid-level managers transitioning into senior leadership roles. And an ERG in the programming can really help support that within your company. And I know that that's something that if we're helping women to be successful in the organization and across the business, that the other functions like HR, your talent development, the other managers and business leaders are going to be very supportive of.
That is a great perspective. I am going to give a shout out to Veronica. I did not know it's your birthday. What a great way to celebrate with us. I did not know that, but wow, how generous of you to be with us today and celebrate. So thank you so much for being here. And let's just wish her all a happy birthday. Let's send it in the chat. Tell her happy birthday. I love what you were what Melanie was saying. I want to build on it. We've had some questions around this. So I'm wondering, Veronica, if you can answer this, which is, with only 5%, someone was quoting this, so I'm just reading from the chat here, 5% of women are compensated in ERGs. How do you help them not feel more burnt out? Like Melanie was alluding to earlier as well, it's more and more that comes on our plate. What have you found to help with that?
Yeah, no, I love that question, Natalie. And thank you everybody for the birthday wishes too. It was on August 13th and I'm still celebrating in typical Leo fashion. So,
all right. Well, we're happy to be here with you with the birthday. Let's go.
I know. So I think one thing that's most important, especially within the workplace, is that a woman needs to say the investment that this organization is making. Right? Because it is an investment. When you find that BRGs, ERGs are helping women advance, you know that it is an investment. It is the coaching. It is the true opportunity for cross-functional partnerships to be built, for talent to be advanced, for businesses to be changed, and for things to grow. And so I think in order for us to kind of keep that momentum going is that we have to ask for it and we have to demand it. And that is the only way that you're going to get what you want. My mother, she always gave me the perfect example. She always said, no one is going to just hand you something. You have to ask for it. Doesn't matter what color you are. Doesn't matter what gender you identify with. If you are a woman, doesn't matter. You have to ask for what you want and you have to go get it. And so I think that when we sit with that in kind of our minds and we know that, then we reinforce it, that we have to go get it in order to receive it. So seeing it as an investment, you're taking an investment in yourself. And you're saying, you know what, for this organization, this is what we want to do. This is how we have to do it. And that's how you're going to do it. So I think most importantly, in order to continue being paid, is that you are set up in an organization that is able to do that, right? Because not all organizations have the financial gains in order to pay the leaders of ERGs. That is a known fact. But if you work for an organization that is highly profitable, or you lead an organization that's highly profitable, make sure that those ERG leaders are able to be paid for their investment in your organization. And then if you don't see it happening, ask for it and request it, and find a way to take some of the budget that you see for miscellaneous items, for learning opportunities. That's the budget that can be released within those ERGs. And I've seen it done. So those are some of the things that we would have to do.
I'm going to shift to Nicolette, who has, from an HR perspective, have you seen any challenges with people getting paid, or, to build on what Veronica is saying, to help empower the people that are listening? Because there's been some great conversations. Claire gave an amazing presentation earlier about asking. So I love what you're saying, Veronica, because it's so important that we ask, we advocate. But Nicolette, from an HR perspective, is there any strategy that you have found that is successful with this? Oh, you're on mute. Yes. I don't know how to unmute.
Sorry.
Oh, there you go. Okay.
I actually looked, I was like, oh, Veronica's so smart. She put herself on mute. I'm like, I better mute for background noise. And then I'm like, oh no, I can't unmute. Sorry about that. So yeah, I think I agree with what's been said. Typically what I've seen is more this notion of enabling people to, to allocate time. So, kind of contracting so time can be spent focused really on, on the role, particularly if it's leading an ERG, right? So that I've seen. So, making sure that that time is carved out. Outside of that, I think, companies that I've observed have done things more around spot awards and being able to, to be able to compensate in that way for, for engagement and leadership. I think I noticed in the chat, somebody was saying something about, something it was saying about an award that was given for an ERG leader. So I think that's probably more of what's going on. And by the way, that's another reason why I don't think we've talked about it yet, but we did talk about making sure there are clear expectations that are set. But I think, coming up with actually, how are you going to measure success? What are the metrics that you're going to use? I think that also enables you to really go back and kind of share what kind of impact you're having on the business. And if there is significant business impact, boy, that really speaks to wanting to make sure that those accomplishments are properly recognized.
Thank you so much, Nicolette. That's great. I have two kind of related follow-up questions to what you are saying. And one is for Melanie about volunteers, which kind of goes with this topic, that if someone isn't getting paid, how do you recruit people? And, maybe there is that you have to show the value so that they can have recognition within the organization. What have you found, Melanie, that worked?
Yeah, with ERGs, I find that members will be attracted by what you have to offer, and that comes in the form of value and impact. But I find that volunteers as a part of an ERG, which, by the way, all of the ERGs that I've been a part of have been volunteer-led and managed with executive level sponsorship. So I think that's an important point to mention. But volunteers and the engagement of volunteers tends to look a little different, right? Typically volunteers, they will be the fuel that keeps your ERG machine running, and they will likely be attracted by what they can get out of their experience or what they can contribute. That tends to be the primary motivators when you think about volunteering as a part of an ERG. So it's important that you think about how you more specifically curate those volunteer experiences as a part of your ERG. And so I have a couple suggestions. If this is something that you're working on within your company or your organization, start with volunteer descriptions. It can be similar to a job description, but what I think that does is it helps to set expectations first and foremost, perhaps around how much time a volunteer position might take. That's something that could ebb and flow when you're talking about volunteers and what they're able to give. But also think about the type of experiential experience that someone can get from that opportunity. A lot of times when you're in your day job, you may look around and think, I would love to get some more experience with project management or marketing or communications, but your role doesn't facilitate that easily. Volunteering as a part of an ERG is a great way to be able to get similar experiences that help you prepare for your next role, help you to build up your resume. And so I think that's an important way to think about the volunteer experience. And then as an overall ERG, finding ways to recognize those volunteers for all the great work they're doing. I have experience where we've hosted an annual breakfast and we recognized everyone with a plaque, and our senior leaders were all there to express our appreciation for all of the work that they had done. So the visibility is a really nice part of volunteering and going above and beyond. But also think about training that you can provide to those volunteers as a part of being involved in the ERG. So they're getting something a little more tangible out of the experience as well. And then finally, I would say, when you think about your ERG volunteers, consider all the types of activities where a volunteer support structure would be helpful. For example, someone may want to volunteer and be engaged and feeling like they're contributing, but they may not have much time. Emails need to be sent out. Promotions need to be posted on your internal social media channels. That's work that has to be done. It's actually really important work when you're promoting events or initiatives as it relates to your ERG. And that's something that doesn't take a lot of time, but it's a way for someone to feel like they're engaged as a volunteer and really giving back. So think about your committee structure, think about the things that need to be done. Structure your volunteers and your committees around that type of work, and make sure you're finding a way to give back to your volunteers as well.
Thank you so much. I have two last things.
Can I just add one quick thing too, because it's so tied on the communication element, because when you were saying that, Melanie, communicate, because the more you can be communicating, especially within leadership, to understand, wow, Natalie needs to get some experience with public speaking. Let's put her out in this, or Nicolette needs experience with organization. Let's get her involved in this. They can kind of create some of that buzz for you too. Sorry.
No, you're good. I'm going to do two last questions because I know we don't have much time, but I got to ask Cathy Skala with mentoring, because you are the mentoring maven. So didn't know I was going to say that, right?
No.
So mentoring is such a huge part of the ERG and helping women. And you really worked on that with executive women to get them to engage. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure, absolutely. So, I was talking earlier about trying to get women involved at all levels. And we found that while we did a really great job of getting women involved at the individual contributor, manager, director level, it was really hard getting executive women and VP women involved. And primarily because they felt like through a number of interviews that we did with them, that they were already at their career level, and joining a ERG or BRG was not really something they were seeking out for their own personal development. And so through these interviews, we asked them, well, what would you be interested in? And how about if you give back to some of the women in your organization by serving as mentors? So I'm not kidding you, to almost every single person we interview, and they're like, oh, I love that idea. I would love to do that. And this was separate from some of the other mentoring programs that we had already had established. And so we gave as a reward or recognition the co-leaders of the committees that we had formed. We paired them up with senior level women as mentors so that they could get that exposure, they could get some mentoring, they could learn about cross-functional. It served not only for the leaders themselves of the committees, but the executive women really felt like they were able to give back and learn more about the upcoming talent that we had in our organization.
Wonderful. Well, I know we're going to go to breakout, but before we do, Veronica, have you found anything that has really made a difference for recognition or engagement that helped women be kind of go and stay involved, I guess would be the way I would say it?
Well, it's the more tangible things, right? I think, getting paid is always super important, but it's also being recognized, like a simple thank you, like showing gratitude, like a simple little like award or shout out on social media like LinkedIn, congratulating someone for their promotion. I mean, it only takes a little bit of effort to ask someone how their day was and how are you doing. There's some of our managers, even within our own agency, that start every meeting, the first 10 minutes, they do not talk about the business. They talk about what it is you are going through, how you're feeling. And it's not to feel like this, like the system where you don't feel like you can say thank you to people, but it's really to extend the thank yous and to feel natural and organic when you congratulate someone. So I'm happy that Nicolette, she also touched on this too, of just giving someone a simple reward. Maybe it's a gift card. Hey, coffee is on me this week. Coffee is on me this month, or giving someone the day off just to say we appreciate you. And those are all just a simple thing. So I think the getting paid mantra can look so different for every individual. And I think what's most important and how you can kind of understand that is by listening to people and knowing what your employees are looking for. And especially if you're a woman that is leading a team, you can probably open your ears a little more too and just hear, like, what does your team need and how can they connect better and what do they need the most? So I would say that the investment looks very different to every single human, but I think the most important thing that is always foundational is the gratitude. I just want to be seen and heard, and I want to receive a thank you every now and then.
I love that. Feeling valued is, and giving gratitude and thanks, with the exception of something tangible like a gift card. It's free to thank someone. It's free to show your appreciation. And you don't know how that's going to impact the person. But if you're involved in an ERG and you're feeling, in these times, where better can you be if you surround yourself with people that understand what you're going through and want to go on the journey with you and help you accelerate. So I think that all the things that all of you have said are amazing. There's a lot in the chat that I'm seeing. Claire, I don't know how we are on time. I know we're going to go to breakouts, and if maybe we're going to talk about it there, or if you want me to ask any of the questions that I'm seeing here. So I want to ask you first before I keep going. I could go all day. This is such a great panel.
I think what we should do, and this was fantastic and great job, Natalie. I think let's do the breakouts, only because after the breakouts, we're actually going to come back together and do a group share of what was discussed in the breakouts.
Sure.
So if you're all able to stick around, our panelists, absolutely great, would love you to, but you don't have to. So I'm going to let Natalie, is there anything else you want to wrap up before I stop the recording and announce what's next for the day?
I just want to say a huge thanks to all of our panelists for being here. I know everyone had a lot on their plates today, as always, as we all do. And thanks to you, Claire, for the opportunity. It's been a pleasure to be speaking about this today. I'm so glad to be celebrating this important day with all of you.
Thank you. Thanks so much. All right, so I'm going to let our panelists take a break, turn off their cameras, remove the pin, always a moment. So for everybody else who's here, thank you. Thanks for sticking around. This next session is going to be really interesting. It's our first breakout of the day. And so I've asked actually a number of women, let me pin myself here. There you go. So now you can see me. Before I go into what the next session is, let me just say thank you to everybody who's watching this recording after the fact. Happy Women's Equality Day, which I guess is a thing to celebrate because it marks the fact that we used to be second-class citizens and now we're no longer. I'm gonna put that in some quotations because there's still a lot of work to do. And so ladiesgetpaid.com, we are doing a lot of that work. We're an educational platform that helps teach women how to level up professionally and financially. And most importantly, I think it's because we're a community and you all help each other. So let me stop the recording.